Chapter 10. The Konkelo. Konkelo is the Finnish word for a tree that is resting against another tree, like the one you see in the picture. On the fourth morning after the funeral, Tulikki and Jill rose at their normal time. Jill went to see to the goats. She milked Nana and let all the goats out of the shelter. Then she checked that they had enough fresh water and came back into the house to separate the milk. Tulikki had made up the fire and was cooking porridge. The plates were set on the table. It seemed so empty with just two plates. Neither of them wanted to sit in Tulikukka's chair. It's so quiet without Tulikukka Mum's singing, Tulikki commented. It is, Jill replied. I don't like to sing without her. I feel her missing voice even more when I try. It doesn't even smell like home without her, Tulikki continued. I know. I held one of her shirts close to me all night. You could try the same, Jill responded. There are still some hanging on the back of our bedroom door. The great seals collect stories and tell them to their elders when they are old, Tulikki said in the language of the mainland. Rianda was born. Rianda told me about it, and I realized how little I know about your lives before I was born. Tell me about meeting my father, she asked. I met your father before I met Tulikukka. I met him in the sacred grove. He used to visit often, Jill replied. She changed to sign language. Normally I felt a peace descending when I entered the grove. I would wade ashore and I would feel as though a weight were rolling off my shoulders. A feeling of lightness would fill my body and my breathing would become deeper. That day I felt there was something wrong with the grove. Already in the human form, something wasn't quite right. I shifted and I could feel it in my pores, but I had no way to ask the forest what was wrong. The standing trees were not speaking to their lichen, and the fallen trees were only whispering to the tentacular creatures. To me, their murmurings were incomprehensible. I made my way to the Konkelo, the tree that had begun its descent to the earth and was now hosting a large number of mosses, lichen, and even fern. The Konkelo was alive with creatures running up and down her body, some venturing inwards towards her heartwood. I could hear the Konkelo calling from much further away than usual. The Konkelo was still leaning against her younger sister, her roots half exposed to the world, calling out as the two creaked together in the wind. She had been a pine tree, but now she was a messenger who welcomed visitors from beneath the ground, from the surface, from the water. Her creaking sounds were alien to me, but I knew she had something important to tell me. The sound was different that day, so I sniffed her roots. There was something pungent, earthy, a kind of special aroma of the leaves returning to the soil. I felt a pulsing sensation, something which felt panicky. A woodlouse, spotting my confusion, directed my gaze to a patch of mushrooms that lay near the point where the Konkelo remained connected to the ground. I placed my paws between the mushrooms and felt, rather than heard, a strange voice that my stoat self could not understand. It belonged outside the world I knew, but seemed to be trying to tell me something. It was soft to touch and slippery, but also powerful, as though nothing could destroy it. But it was clearly in distress. It's the fungi under the ground. A voice spoke to me, a human voice. I turned and saw a Selkie man standing with his sealskin over his arm. I didn't recognize it when I was in my seal form either. I can't understand what it says either, but today it seems distressed, he signed, clearly recognizing me as another shaper. I feel I ought to be doing something, but I don't know what. Can you feel it too? He asked. I nodded. I could feel it from far away. I felt as though I were being called, but I didn't know who was calling. It's as though the whole forest is in pain, I signed. I don't know what to do either. The Selkie man stroked his hand along the trunk of the tree. Then he turned to me. I cannot speak to the Konkelo in human form, and I cannot climb her as a seal. Can you talk to her and ask what is wrong and whether we can help? He signed. That was when I realized it had never occurred to me to climb the Konkelo before. I had always stayed near her roots. I nodded and scampered up the roots to the main trunk. It had become ridged with the paths of weevils and ants ferrying materials up and down the main pathway. The higher I climbed, the more urgent the Konkelo's message became. I still could not understand the language she spoke, but with her sister in the wind, but I started to make sense of the vibrations I could feel but through my pores. High up, I found a place where the two branches had gone their separate ways, and I stretched out with my back paws on the lower of the two and my front paws on the upper branch. I closed my eyes and allowed myself to smell and to feel the brave vibrations of the Konkelo. Although she did not know the words being spoken I did not know the words being spoken in the creaking sound. They helped me settle into that moment. Sensing with my whole body, I saw the Konkelo was telling me something behind my closed eyes. I saw lines of light at the base of the standing tree. They spread out throughout the grove. They were pulsing with energy. They spread over the forest like scurrying ants. Wherever there were mushroom networks, the light exploded with a brightness that was painful to my mind's eyes. I opened my seeing eyes to avoid the glare of the vision. Around me, everything seemed green and peaceful and calm. The creaking of the Konkelo was just a gentle rhythm. Only the pulsing of the mushrooms gave a hint that something was amiss. The problem was not here in this forest. The Konkelo was responding to something beyond the grove. I waited to see whether the Konkelo could tell me more. I closed my eyes again to feel the pulse of the tree. I felt the presence of beetles crawling through her trunk and her pleasure in welcoming them. I smelt the wood smoke and saw flames at a distance. And then I saw an image of a plume of fire and a bright orange bird. It was a phoenix, of course, but I'd never seen one at that point in my life. The image only lasted a second, but it startled me so much I opened my eyes. I couldn't understand what the tree was trying to tell me, and I didn't know what the image of the bird meant, but I focused my eyes on feeling the beetles moving through the tree. It's hard to describe the feelings and thoughts of a tree. They use images and vibrations to communicate with shapers like me, but they constantly talk to each other through the mushrooms. The spiry folk, the beetles, the weevils, the centipedes, and other creatures that crawl through the dying trees, also bring the trees news from other parts of the forest. They also bring some kind of comfort to the trees. It's hard to put into human language, Jill signed. I felt that when I perched on the fallen pine near the cliff edge yesterday, Tulikki signed. It felt as though weevils were scratching an itch, she commented. Yes, that's exactly it, Jill exclaimed out loud. Until that day, I hadn't paid much attention to the spiry folk. I hadn't really thought that they might understand the forest different from me, and I certainly hadn't thought that they might understand the trees better than me, that they might even understand the language of trees. I scampered down the trunk to find the Selkie man waiting for me. He looked troubled, and he gave me a tired smile. My skin is starting to dry. May I carry you down to the shore so that we can speak there? He signed and held out his hand. I started. I thought I could trust him, but I was not yet ready to let him hold me. I transformed into my human shape and signed to say that I would walk down to the shore with him, and he would lead the way. We walked a few without talking, as I didn't know his human language and he only knew a few words of mine. When we arrived at the shore, I returned to my stoat form and waited for the man while the man put his skin in a pool. My name is Nestori. I used to live out in the archipelago, but I had some problems with my father. He can't shift form. I've tried living with my mother's people, but that hasn't been working out so well either. So I've been coming to this grove. There is something here that speaks to me, and I feel better when I spend time here. And recently I've sensed that there is something troubling the forest, but I don't know what to do and how to make anything better. And today it seems that something new, something urgent is happening that is distressing the grove. I feel so small and helpless. I can't speak to the forest creatures in my human form, and I can't be a seal in the forest. I shifted once and learnt that I must speak with a Konkelo, and I sought her out, but I haven't been able to communicate with her. I was so thrilled to see another shaper. What's your name? And could you speak with the Konkelo? It was only then that I realized that I had not even tried to speak to the Konkelo. I had simply tried to listen and feel what she had to say. I told him that my name was Jill, and then recounted the message of the tree. Nestori understood that the Konkelo's message immediately. There must be a forest fire somewhere near here that the forest can feel. The plume of flame and the orange bird, that must be my friend Tulikukka, whose other form is a phoenix. She is able to put out fires. The spiry folk, could it be that we could ask them what is wrong? Do the trees talk to them? Are there any spiry folk shapers? Perhaps we could find one and talk to the trees through them. Would they talk to Tulikukka? Is that why they need her? He signed rapidly, and I had trouble keeping up with the flow of his ideas. I had no answers to his questions, and it seemed to me that he did not expect any. I resolved to return to the Konkelo and see whether she was willing to let me ask questions, and whether this was indeed a call to action. Nestori seemed energized by his signing. He gazed out to the sea. Thank you, Jill, he signed. I will go to my old home now and seek out my friend Tulikukka. She is now Phoenix of the island, and I think she will know what to do for the best. But I hope to meet you again. Are you often here? I signed to say that I was often here, but rarely on the beach, as I disliked the feeling of sand on my paws. But I suggested he might leave a sign to let me know he was here, and I would travel to the Konkelo and meet him there. We agreed that he would place a white rock on top of one of the larger granite boulders if he wanted to talk to me, and that I would do the same. So that's how I met your Nestori, Jill signed. I had no sense of how important he would become to me, or that knowing him would lead me to Tulikukka Mum. I'll tell you about how I found a way to talk to the Konkelo this evening, but now I think we should clear the table and start our chores, Jill signed.